It came into the league in 1961. So on a bright, sunshiny day in Anaheim, here we go. Game 5, Wade Boggs, Marty Barrett, and Bill Buckner against Mike Witt in the top of the first inning.
One of the few mistakes that Witt made early in the game in Boston was a leadoff walk to Boggs. So again, as Barrett said, if Boggs can get on, it makes his job a lot easier, and it makes it a lot more difficult for Mike Witt.
1-0 the count. Wade, the batting champion in the American League this season, hitting .357. Another pitch outside. 2 balls and no strikes to count. Quick turnaround for these two teams. Last night's game, 3 hours, 50 minutes, and ending at about 9:15 local time. And Witt behind on the count, 3-0 to Boggs, who not only hits but walks a lot.
107 walks on the year, and really this is why he makes such an exceptional leadoff hitter. Can't run that well, but will get on base for you. Doesn't mind taking pitches. That works both ways. It's obviously advantageous as a hitter. It enhances your chances of walking, but also makes the pitcher, Mike Witt, work a little bit harder. Has to throw more pitches.
That's in there, 3-2. With his walks and his hits combined, there's such a thing as on-base percentage, and you see the figures as Boggs at .453 led the league. And what that means is you're getting on about 45% of the time. Fouled away, 3-2. So that is a tremendous on-base percentage. To the count. Down the line, curling foul, and it's still 3-2. Very pleasant day. Temperature expected to get up into the upper 70s, low 80s. And the 3-2 pitch is foul at the plate.
Pretty good illustration right there what makes Mike Witt so tough. We said fastballs about 92, 93 miles per hour, but goes 3-2, a couple of fastballs. The Boggs fouls off to the left and then comes back with a curveball. So he's not afraid to throw that curveball at any time. And you talk to Gene Mock, the manager, he says it's one of the best curveballs he's ever seen. And Gene's been in baseball many, many years.
3-2 pitch is hit on the ground to the right side and backhanded by Gretsch, who goes to Witt covering. And with Joyner in the hospital and Hendrick in right field, that's not a bad play.
Well, it's an excellent play, and we saw Bobby last night make an error at second base, then get the game-winning hit after striking out 3 times. Ranges to his right. Has played first before. And this is a spring training play. You see, you go down to a workout every day, entire spring training, and it works to get the first out.
On a similar ground ball last night, you'll recall Hendrick playing first base and felling Joyner. Thought about it, then broke back to the bag, and it turned out to be a base hit and led to a couple of Boston runs. Barrett fouls it away in the count of 1-1.
George was joking about it. He said, what kind of friend is Wally? When he does that to me, he says, he was going to get my vote for Rookie of the Year until he made me go out there last night. Of course, then you have Clemens and Schiraldi, and then Hendrick did not have a particularly good night either, throwing about 95 miles per hour, and he's swinging when the ball's in the glove, so it was a tough night for George.
Fouled away again in the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Mike Witt trying to pitch the Angels to the pennant, and what a thrill it would be for him in so many ways, including the fact he went to high school at Servine High in Anaheim, which is very close to Anaheim Stadium. Got fisted, grounded down a second, and with Brick moving towards the ball, it's Witt again who covers first base. So Bobby looks good on one play, then some confusion on the other, but he's bailed out by Witt. Burleson to Witt, 2 down.
Well, as a pitcher, anything to your left, you automatically need to break. Again, the reason the ball got by Hendrick last night is he didn't go. Bobby commits himself, can't get to the ball, but as you said, Witt is there. That's the way it's supposed to work.
Bill Buckner is the batter. And Buckner, one of those having trouble getting on track. Bill, of course, was slumping toward the end of the regular season, and it's just carried over. His overall mark during the regular year was 267. 2 out, bases empty in the first. 0-1. Well, 1979, a World Series hero, Wilbur Darnell Sargent. Well, now coaching with the Atlanta Braves. I get the feeling you might remember his exploits, Mr. Palmer.
I had fairly good luck with him, but I remember Scotty McGregor with a lead in the 7th game of the 79 World Series, and Willie just went deep, but he did so well. Long home run for yet another World Series loss. He's an awfully good hitter.
McNamara might think about suiting him up pretty soon.
Also a real gentleman.
Yep. 1 ball, 1 strike to count on Buckner. 2 out, bases empty in the first inning. And it's a ball and 2 strikes.
I guess, again, alluding to something that Mike Witt said in the pregame interview is about the fact that he didn't know if the expectation level was too high or he was just crummy. I think one of the problems he had, he's always had a great curveball, but he's gained confidence in his fastball. Seeing that, he can throw his breaking ball over when he's behind. Above average stuff, great stuff as a matter of fact, and good control, and that's why you win.
Down the line in left field, and a tough play for Downing on the run, and he can't get there. Brian Downing, I love the way he plays the game. We talked about how hard he plays. He plays left field like a linebacker, and that's not to disparage him, but he crashes into walls. Downing's a man who, in his very first major league game, on the very first pitch, he's playing third base for the White Sox, attempts to grab a little looping foul ball, bangs into the wall, and is hurt to the point that he winds up on the disabled list. 1 pitch. And he's played the game that way ever since. 1 ball, 2 strikes to count. Toward Downing, and a more conventional type play. Boston got in order. We played a half. Red Sox nothing, and the Angels coming up.
3 going into that second playoff game, so now it's 9-3 at Fenway, only 5-5 on the road. I think one of the reasons that he is successful, good fastball, good curveball, used to throw a slider but had elbow surgery, so he doesn't do that anymore. And a great forkball is that hitters have a tendency to try to pull the ball. And if you try to pull Bruce Hurst, which is what you'll do in Fenway, you're going to get yourself out. Here, where the ball does carry a little bit better, especially on a hot afternoon day, they're going to try to hit the ball the other way, and maybe that's what hitters try to do. Maybe that's the philosophy they have against Hurst away versus home.
2-1 pitch. Grounded down to Barrett at second base. And there's 1 away. Marty Barrett. Barrett's the kind of guy, he's having that type of series where you get to watch him play every day. And with all of the big names in Boston, and Boggs and Rice and Baylor and Buckner and people like that, you get to watch a Marty Barrett, as we did a Jim Sundberg in postseason last year. Doesn't get the headlines, but boy, are they steady.
Well, they sure are. And of course, I had Bobby Gritches at second baseman. I had Jerry Adair before that, Davey Johnson, who's manager of the Mets. And again, next to Boog Powell's and the Frank Robinsons and the Brooks Robinsons and people like that, they pale. And then Richie Dower, who was very steady, didn't run as well as Barrett, always constantly up there at high fielding percentages. They're unknown, but they're the difference. They turn the double play. They get you out of the big inning if you're a pitcher. And a lot of times it takes, for instance, if you go back and look at the World Series, Dower was a big hit in Philadelphia for us in '83. Again, you think about '83, you think of Murray's couple of home runs and so forth. Obviously very instrumental in winning the series, but Dower with key hits, again, an unsung hero. And that's what Marty Barrett's been able to do. And I think if you talk to anybody in Boston, they'd say he's a marvelous player.
Tonight, Game 4 in the National League, Houston against the Mets, with the Mets on top 2-1. Sid Fernandez going for New York, and Mike Scott for the Astros. 0-1 on Schofield. 1-1 now. Schofield having a good series. Home run last or Friday night in Game 3 that put the Angels in front, and they went on to win 5-3. 2-1. 1 out. Bases empty. We're in the bottom of the first inning with no score in Game 5. To center field, and Armas fades. 2 gone.
Of course, the question in everybody's mind is, can Bruce Hurst come back with only 3 days rest for the first time this year? Done it only once in the last 5 years, every year. Last year wasn't very successful, and I think he can. And again, it goes back to the base on balls. If you're a control pitcher versus a thrower, I don't think the lack of rest hurts you as much. He's going to make good pitches. He made a good pitch there. Got it just enough away where Schofield could get to it and hit it to the deepest part of the park.
Brian Downing at the plate. 2 out, bases empty. In there for a strike, and the count is 1-1. Downing, who drove in 4 runs in Game 1, looks in the tie, ball 2. 2-1.
That's the run he drove in by getting hit by the pitch, and it's an interesting thought that he said when talking over the batting cage. He said after he threw the 2 high fastballs, his best pitches, I took my 2 best swings. He says, I was trying to go up the middle, and if I'm not trying to do that, I wouldn't have been hit by that pitch.
2-2. Harrowing souvenir.
Here, a little insight into what a hitter will think once he gets the 2 strikes. Most hitters are very susceptible to the ball inside. If you look at this graphic.
And he's second only to Don Baylor.
35 on the year. They're susceptible inside mainly because what they're doing is looking for the ball out over the plate. Instead of looking for their pitch with 2 strikes, you look for the ball. And that's what he was trying to do. He said he thought about it briefly on deck. Should I try to go up there and get hit? And then he said, well, Chirali at 95 miles per hour. I'm not sure if that'll be a good idea.
Little squiver, and it is a foul ball. And he wound up getting hit on, as you see the sign saluting Gene Autry. It was an interesting contrast in that McNamara this morning said he tried to throw the best pitch of his life, and as Giraldi said last night after the game, I threw the worst pitch of my life. The 1-2 to Downing. And the 3-2 is foul back. Interesting there, last night with 2 strikes trying to go up the middle, but 3-2 here and trying to hit one out.
It's a different situation. And, that's why Brian Downing's had a superb year. A lot of walks, 90. 20 home runs, 95 RBIs.
Fouled away.
If you talk to hitters, they do have to adjust. They adjust to the count, the situation, and really what the ability of the pitcher is. And again, Downing, he says, well, I mean, you saw the pitch last night. The first swing, as we said, trying to hit it out of the stadium, not just out of the park. And once that happens, you go to 2 strikes, you just become a contact hitter.
Ooh, just inside. Hurst wanted the call. Borderline pitch.
No walks in Boston right here. Good pitch. Just off the corner. Doesn't get the call. And Downing, good enough eye to take it for ball 4.
Doug DeCente, who hit the home run last night that got things started. A moment ago, we showed you the graphic with Hurst, one of 2 left-handers to shut the Angels out this season. The other was Danny Jackson of Kansas City, and in Jackson's game, he had a no-hitter going into the 9th. Angels have had a bizarre year in a way. A lot of dramatic, high-scoring, come-from-behind wins, and then a lot of near no-hitters and 1 no-hitter, as Joe Cowley no-hit the Angels here in September, and an odd game in that the Angels scored a run.
The man that broke up 2 of those no-hitters is lying in the hospital, Wally Joyner.
Yep, he broke up a no-hit bid by Walt Carroll of Detroit with 2 out in the 9th in a game in August, and then the no-hitter that Charlie Huff was spinning was broken up in the first half of the season in a game the Angels came from behind to win. at a key spot in the season for them. One of those turnaround points. 2-0 the count.
Alluding again to something that Drew first said, who are the Angel hitters that give you trouble? He said to Sensei and Gritch, and when he came off the disabled list, he was out for about 45 days with a pulled groin muscle. Lost 4-1 out here, and the two guys that hit home runs were Gritch and DeCinces.
2-1. Funny thing about Hurst this year, the two starts against California, he had that one shutout, and then in his other start, he was knocked out earlier than at any point during the season. 2 out in the 4th. Strike. 2-2. Those are 2 regular season starts, and then the complete game the other day. Roger Clemens, and Clemens would be back on the mound Wednesday night if there is a Game 7. Time calls. Tomorrow is an off day, regardless. It could be the beginning of a long off season for the Red Sox, or it could be a travel day for both teams. A 6th game would be played Tuesday night at Fenway Park, and a 7th game would be played Wednesday night at Fenway. 2-2 the count. Downing goes, pitches high, throw is there. And on the 2-2 pitch, Brian Downing is running. The Sensei takes, and Gedman guns down Downing.
Another look at it. I don't believe it's a very good play. You got a home run hitter, a guy without speed, and Gedman, who threw out 50% of the runners right out of the inning.
No score after 1 in Game 5. Bobby Grix, when we talked to him prior to Game 1 in Boston. Last night's hero, as it turns out, and Jim Rice starts things in the 2nd inning by looking at the strike. 0-1. Rice, Baylor, and Evans in the 2nd. 1-1. One and two the count.
Rather feeble swing from Jim Rice. You don't see that very often. The reason for that is the curveball in the first pitch. It just sets up the fastball.
And hit into right field for a base hit. Not your quintessential Jim Rice base hit, but he'll take it.
That's what has made him, again, as I've said many times, a rare blend between a power hitter and a guy that has a lifetime average of over 300, 324 in this year. He had a good pitch. He's so strong, and you talked about it during the series, that he's basically been up the middle hitter instead of trying to pull, trying to stay way out of the double plays, and he did it that time, even though nobody was on, obviously. Fought it off to right field for a base hit.
Baylor takes outside, 4-1. I said not the quintessential Rice hit in the sense that he's so big and strong, and when you think about Rice, you think everything's a line drive or a home run. But as Jim said, a good pitch. Went to right field with it and starts the inning with a single.
I think one of the reasons that you see a lot of times, you take a look right there, start him off with a fastball, comes back with a curveball. And again, it's one of the best curveballs in the American League. It's not the best. They rate it right up there with Bert Blyleven. There's another one.
1 and 2.
Again, you're into a string of hitters that, as we've said, this is a great home run ballpark in the daytime that hits so well on the road. Baylor with 31 home runs, only 9 at Fenway Park, 22 on the road. Next hitter in the lineup, Evans, 18 on the road, 8 at home. You get to Gedman, 16, 14 on the road, 2 at home. So second best record in the American League for road teams behind the Yankees, the Red Sox.
And down he goes, so Baylor strikes out. And as McNamara told Don Drysdale during the pregame show, everybody talking about the pitching, but the big problem, getting runs manufactured from the people who are supposed to manufacture them. And there is a look graphically with Buckner having a bad series, and Rice now 4 for 18. Baylor with 5 hits. Evans and Armas both in their own little what you'd call a mini slump, except a mini slump is really a maxi slump when you have it in the playoffs.
And then you combine the good pitching of the Angels starters. They're holding Boston to 1.84 runs a game, which is under 2 runs a game. So something we brought up at the All-Star game this year, trying to see why the dominance of the National League is basically when you get good pitching against good hitting, the difference comes not in the average, because it's almost the same, it comes in home runs. And when you looked at that graph, the one thing you didn't see was there's only one home run from a group of home run hitters, and that was in a 2-run home run by Rice. 7-2 lead in the second game. They made it 9-2. So off a guy that came back last night and pitched extremely well, Doug Corbett.
2-1. And Baylor, even though he's been hitting or has picked up enough hits so that his average looks respectable, has not driven in a run in the playoffs. Foul back. 2 balls, 2 strikes to count. Mike Witt. Rookie year was 82. Witt 6'7", weighs in at about 195. Still 2-2.
Really getting to the point where Dwight Gooden was last year, when Dwight was able to be 24-4, where he has 2 pitches that are equally as good. Command of his fastball and an unhittable curveball. If you look at a somewhat worried John McNamara, but as he said, I think in what he was relating to about being in this place before during the course of the season is when their lead went from about 9 games to 2.5. All the skeptics said that they couldn't win. Of course, if you look at that, you have to say maybe some of the hitting is caused by how good the California pitchers have pitched.
3 balls, 2 strikes to count. So with Evans at the plate, Evans walks a lot. He also strikes out a lot. And Rice is at first base. So let's see what the Red Sox do with Jim. They send him, and it's called strike 3, and he's trapped, but he does get back. He was going and stopped, and the throw went down to second. And Burleson had no play back to first base. So Evans strikes out looking, 2 gone.
Well, good base running from Jim Rice right there. He takes a look, which is the key to this play. See the top half of the screen, the throw by Boone. Dwight Evans, of course, with Boone coming up, thought that pitch was a little bit high. Wondered if it really wasn't ball 4. But when you come up the throw, even if it's through 3-2 on a steal attempt, you sometimes block out the vision of the umpire. So Boone, who normally sits behind home plate and frames the pitch, comes up, interferes with the umpire, and I believe the pitch might have been a little bit above the strike zone. So a break for the Angels.
Oh, 0-1 to count on Gedman. 0-2. Rice at first base, 2 gone, second inning, no score. One and 2. Foul tipped and stays alive. It's a foul tip as Bob Boone started to come up and took a piece of that one, maybe of his bare hand.
Well, it looks like it gets him because it looks like he's looking for a breaking ball. And again, what makes Witt so tough is he's unpredictable. You really don't know what to look for. He almost throws the fastball right by Gedman. This hits the top half of the ball.
And then it's ripped down the line in right field and into the corner and gone. A home run for Gedman. One pitch after Witt nearly had him struck out. Gedman lashes one down the line and out of here. And we pointed out who hit 2 home runs all season long at Fenway and hit 3 here in 6 regular season games and now another in the playoffs.
Well, notice the open stance, and that's an adjustment he made a couple of years ago when he hit 24 home runs. Used to be closed, go into the ball. It's worked very well for him, and it certainly worked very well right there.
Armas on a half swing. No. Ball 1. Isn't that something? So close to having him struck out. And then the next pitch is in the seats. 2-0 the count.
Well, it's one of the no-nos about pitching inside. Everybody says you have to pitch inside, and you do if you want to pitch away, but try to throw the ball by him on the inside part of the plate, and Gedman was just a little bit better. I mean, he really stung that home run.
High fly ball, left center. Downing shielding his eyes, makes the catch, and the Red Sox are done. But Rich Gedman with a 2-run homer has made it Boston 2, California nothing. At 3 Eastern, Game 5. That's a guaranteed Game 5. An off day in this series regardless tomorrow, and then, if necessary, a 6-game Tuesday at Fenway Park. 2-0 on a home run by Gedman. Boston leads bottom of the 2nd inning. And Doug DeCinces with that home run in the 9th inning that got the Angel rally started. Drives one to center. Boy, is he swinging the bat well. And that one is off the fence on what turns out to be a catchable ball as it winds up next to Armas's glove, and a double. Tough play, but Armas was there.
It was there, but the play that Gary Pettis may make, and this is how you win Gold Gloves, he goes back, playing deep. Right now he's thinking about you can see the ball just on the top of the wall. Very, very difficult play. Only the great center fielders make that.
Yep.
And again, when you're talking about Tony Armas, above average, but they have him in the lineup for his bat. It goes back to something, the obvious part of this game so far is a 2-run home run by Gedman. Take another look at the double off the wall, but last inning, by sending Brian Downing, only 4 stolen bases, been caught stealing 4 times. You take the bat out of DeCinces' hands. 2-2. It's not a hit-and-run situation. You certainly don't expect him to have to hit in that situation. So we see something out of character for Gene Mauch very early in the game. You wonder, up 3 games to 1, is he going to try to maybe manage her a little bit differently?
The replay, incidentally, made it look a little different than it did live on the Armas play. When you sit in the stands and you look from our angle and you watch that play live, it looked like Armas had a pretty good shot at it, and the replay, pretty much with indisputable visual evidence, it was a much tougher play for Tony on tape than it appeared live. That was like, not catchable, so I amend the initial
like NFL talk there.
Right, exactly. Got to handle both things these days. Swing and a miss. One ball, 2 strikes the count. DeCinces at second base, nobody out. 2-0 Boston in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Foul back. Grich, 3 for 14 in the playoffs.
Again, Bobby should be trying to get DeCinces to third base. Just because you're down by 2 runs does not change the way you play baseball early on in the game. For 2 strikes, it might make a little different. A lot of times, first with a good curveball, once Grich hit the ball left side, we'll throw him the curveball.
2-2, and Reggie Jackson, who was not in the lineup the other day against the lefty Hurst, is in there today. Got him. So Bobby Grich is down on strikes, and up comes number 44.
What sets up this pitch, the fork ball is a high fastball he missed with. Bottom drops out of it. You can see Grich way out on his front foot, lunging for the ball.
It's funny to see Reggie at 1 for 12 because he's been such an instrumental part of the playoffs. And again, I guess it goes back to one of the things we talked about last night. He's such a compelling figure that even at 1 for 12, we've taken a lot of notice of Reg in the playoffs thus far. 0-1.
Let's be honest, Reggie, with his posturing and the way he is, makes you take notice. He has hit the ball hard, not in the air. He's hit the ball hard extremely often on the ground. And basically what they're trying to do is make him chase that pitch. And if he swings at that pitch, and he said it, the first day they had the workouts in Fenway Park, he says, I will not be successful. They're just trying to go up the ladder.
Breaking pitch. 1-1. Jackson, as indicated visually for you moments ago, only 3 starts this season during the regular year against lefties. Didn't start against Hurst the other day, but then Mock said to him last night, you're in there tomorrow.
Of course, this wouldn't be happening if Wally Joyner was healthy and playing first base. Again, Mock having to go with the available personnel, Wally Joyner not being one of those players. And let's face it, this is the ideal scenario as far as Reggie is concerned. Playing in a chance to clinch the first playoff for the Angels. A role, as you said, very familiar with.
2-2. I wonder, though, even if Joyner was in the lineup, if Joyner was at first and Hendrick would be in right, of course, and they normally would go with Burleson. Well, it could be the final game, and the way Reggie's been swinging, Mock's been happy with that, so is Reggie, despite the 1 for 12. Chris might have made the start anyway today. Up high. 3-2.
As we said, that's the pitch he does have to lay off. Seeing Reggie over the years, what happens with left-handed pitchers is most of the time he tries to hit the fastball to left field and then wait for a mistake breaking ball. And if he launches one to right field, it's going to be on a high curveball or a forkball that Hurst doesn't make a good pitch on. Otherwise, he's just trying to hit the ball right back at Hurst.
Good breaking pitch. And no argument from Reggie. He got fooled on the pitch and knows it.
You say, why can't lefties hit lefties? In most cases, good ones can, but Reggie has not seen a lot of left-handed curveballs. First, it has an excellent one. The ball must have broken about 4 feet right in the middle of the plate, but paralyzed Reggie.
George Hendrick, 0 for 9 thus far in his playoff appearances. A little irony with Hendrick hitting behind Jackson. Hendrick and Reggie go all the way back as teammates to 1972 when they played at Oakland. And in Oakland, during the playoffs of 72, that's when Reggie hurt himself against Detroit, couldn't play in the World Series. And it was Hendrick who got 5 starts in that 72 series because of Jackson's injury. Swing and a miss. 0-2. In those days, the A's had Joe Rudy, Reggie, and Matty Alou in the outfield, and then they had to revamp with Reggie's injury, and Hendrick got 15 at-bats against the Reds 14 years ago. Hit sharply, but to Barrett, who cradles the ball and throws him out. So they squander a leadoff double by DeCinces. It's 2-0 Boston as we go to the third. Hey, thank you, Peter. As we return to Anaheim, we have 2 out, and the base is empty. What you've missed from here is this. Spike Owen led off in the inning. The count went to 3-2. He fouled a couple of pitches off and then grounded out to second. And then Wade Boggs came up and hit the second pitch on the ground to short, and Schofield threw him out. And now Barrett is at the plate with 2 out and the base is empty, and the count 2-1. So 2 out, nobody on. Top of the third inning, Red Sox 2, Angels nothing on a 2-run homer by Gedman. Mike Witt against Bruce Hurst in Game 5, and the 2-1 pitch chopped over the mound, charged by Schofield, who throws him out. So 3 grounders and a 1-2-3 inning. Red Sox gone in order, and at the end of 2.5, it's Boston 2 and California nothing. 13, and the Cleveland Browns lead Kansas City by 13 in the 4th. Get some other scores in for you as Boone takes outside. Dallas routing Washington. Redskins are unbeaten. Chicago trying to stay unbeaten, leading 14-0, and Atlanta for real leading the Rams by 9. Boone 1-1 now at the plate. New Orleans, Indianapolis, Saints lead by 10. St. Louis leading Tampa Bay by 4, and the Lions 2 touchdowns in front of Green Bay. So stick with us, folks. In another 2.5 innings, we'll update you again. 2-1 the count. 3-1. To deep left field, down the line into the corner, and it is gone. It's 2-1.
Rather unexpected, only 7 home runs, even though he's hitting well in the series. How do you turn a guy that only hit 7 during the regular season with 400 at-bats into a home run hitter? You go behind 3-1. He looks for the fastball. He got it. You can see the end result.
Now Pettis, who's making a bid to be the series MVP, and the count is 0-1.
With one pitch, you have the lead, so to speak. Unexpected. This is the beach type of day out here.
We showed you Boston and the problems they've had with it. Guys, so to speak. Schofield, Boone, and Pettis all having good series. There it is again. Schofield, Boone 7 for 15 with that homer, and Pettis 7 for 14 and 4 RBIs.
Collectively during the season, right around 244. So the biggest games of the year, they're having their biggest games.
Pettis, who homered the other night, hit his very first right-handed home run off Mike Mason a couple of weeks back, and then he did it again before the season was done off Mason. Base hit. And the Red Sox can't figure out how to get the bottom of the order out.
Again behind in the count. Going right with the pitch, something that Pettis did when he went over Rice's head in left field last night from the other side of the plate. Singles up the middle. 50 stolen bases on the regular season.
Gedman coming back to the plate as Burleson gets ready to stand in for California. Burleson grounded out in the first inning. Rick, who was the Red Sox everyday shortstop in 1975, the last time Boston got to the World Series, now trying to get there with the Angels. Pettis 50 steals during the regular season.
Well, he's tried twice in the playoffs and been thrown out both times by Gedman. Really look at this as a steal situation. Hurst has a pretty good move. A guy that can handle the bat well with Burleson, who is a better hitter when he does go the other way. Ability to hit the ball behind the runner. So what I would think Gene Mauch would do is wait for a good hit and run count. Situation where Hurst has to throw the ball over.
Burleson bluffing a bunt, taking high, ball 1.
Or, shall I say, turn around and sacrifice. Interesting, an aggressive play, sending Downing early, and here you're going to give up the out. But it's something that Mock does so often. The Angels led the league in sacrifices. 91, get the runner over, or at least attempt to do that.
Well, that's one of the things that makes Mock so fascinating as a manager. Just when you think you've got him totally figured out, he'll fool you. There's the man at the age of 60, wrapping up his 25th season as a manager and trying to get to the World Series with that elusive first visit. That gives you an idea of the type of baseball that Gene Mock prefers to play.
Again, there's no guarantee that Rick Burleson will be bunting here because you bunt on one pitch. So if you're pitching, or if you're Rich Gedman, the catcher, sometimes you'll come back with a curveball. Good hit and run situation still.
Lays one down. Good bunt fielded by Hurst, has to hurry it and gets it there in time as Barrett covers and Pettis goes to second. Hurst having to come way down off the mound as Gedman remained behind the plate on a play in which oft times you'll see the catcher go out and get this type of bunt.
Burleson deadens the ball very well. Gedman not that quick, even though he has a great throwing arm. Leaves it to Hurst, and Hurst gets the job. And again, if you go back to last night, Pettis with a great sacrifice to get the winning run to second base, the eventual winning run in the 11th inning. And I think Mike Port said it best about Gene Mock. He very rarely puts his players in positions where they won't be successful. There, he knows Burleson can bunt, so let's get the runner over.
One out. Pettis at second base. Bottom of the third inning. 2-0 Boston. Or 2-1 Boston. Boone's home run having the Red Sox lead. In for a strike. Boom, boom, just like that. Just reflex, period. Throw the glove up and hope it winds up in there. So Schofield ripping a shot for the second out.
Not promising if you're a pitcher, have a ball hit that hard, but right at Boggs makes an excellent play. A lot of times here in Anaheim, you lose the ball coming out of the shirt crowd, especially on a warm day, but Boggs makes a nice play. The intriguing thing about this game, we've heard John McNamara said he's going to go with Al Nipper, who struggled to a 10-12 record. The bullpen really has not done the job for the Red Sox. If they make first work with only 3 days rest, who are you going to go to later in the game? You have Witt. Seems to be throwing well. He's made one mistake, and Gedman jumped in that for a 2-run home run. So down the road, decisions for John McNamara.
In there for a strike and a throw down to second, bounding away from Barrett, but Marty keeps it in the area. 1-1. That's one of the things we talked about at the outset of this series, the Red Sox staff, the 3 starters to be relied upon, Clemens, Hurst, and Boyd. Seaver, of course, ineligible or off the list because of the knee injury. Then the closer in Schiraldi. And then outside of that, a lot of pitchers who've had a lot of problems. And as Jim points out here, they get into trouble. McNamara's got a dilemma.
Really, as a staff, they were tied for the 3rd lowest earned run average along with Chicago in the American League. But I think they were talking in the Boston Globe. Dan Chauncey wrote an article about the 6 relievers, including Al Nipper. They had given up something like 720 base runners in 450 innings. considering a lot of those games you're coming in with runners on base, they are not doing the job.
Two 1 pitch. Good breaking ball for a strike, and the count 2-2. 2-2 on Downing. It's been a good playoff series so far. For two blowouts, not bad as far as a little bit of drama. Games 1 and 2. 3 was a beauty. Last night's dramatic come from behind Angel victory. And we're in the third today. The 2-2 pitch is high. Ball 3. I love that Alan Malamud's line in the L.A. Herald today, saying, of course, last night's game will always be remembered as the one in which Rupert Jones set a playoff record by walking 4 times. 3-2, 2 down. Fly ball to center field. And a lot of room for Tony Armas. And that's that. So they settle for Boone's leadoff homer. And after 3, Boston 2, California 1. 4. And that's our Monday night matchup at 9 Eastern time tomorrow. Buckner to lead off. Buckner, Rice, and Baylor. 4th inning. Al Michaels and Jim Palmer with you from Anaheim. 2-1, the Red Sox on top. Boston trying to stay alive in the best-of-7 series, and the Angels trying to assure themselves of almost a full week off. The World Series would begin next Saturday in the home park of the National League team. Chopper, Witt, gloves, and underhand.
If you're sitting at home wondering what you do when you clinch it on Sunday and don't play till Saturday, played for 3 teams that won 9 in a row. Play inter-squad games, get your pitching ready. Great luxury to have going into a World Series. Set up your pitching rotation just about any way you want it to.
And what was interesting this year, too, is that all of the playoff teams were able to set their rotations because everybody clinched early. Rice at the plate, 0-1. So the Angels were able to establish their rotation to Mock's preference, Boston to McNamara's, and then the added luxury to have several days before the World Series, and you'd be able to set your rotation perfectly for that.
Well, not to mention that when you play inter-squad games, you have to have pitchers playing the outfield. So I always get a chance to play left field.
And pinch run.
No, I did that during the regular season. Actually, I had him once in an inter-squad game before I think the 71 World Series. Had a home run off Pete Rickard. I was thrilled. He wasn't very happy. But I apologize. Because it was an accident.
Got him on a breaking pitch. And Rice, who singled in the 2nd inning, goes down on strikes, and that's number 3 for Mike Witt.
Well, not a good breaking ball. Watch the ball hang. And as a hitter, you see the spin. You try to wait. You're out in front. Break of the ball and the speed of the ball makes it very deceptive.
Don Baylor, who's had all kinds of troubles against Witt through his career. He struck out in the 2nd inning. Two out, bases empty. Boston leading California 2-1 in the 4th. Foul ball. Rich calls. And since Gedman's home run, Witt has retired 7 straight. 2-1 Boston. And so the 2 catchers have hit him out, and it's 2-1 as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Doug DeCinces drills one to left center field, but Rice flips the glasses down and makes the catch. He just missed it, but DeCinces swinging the bat very well the last 2 days.
See the slight smile on his face. A little bit quick right on the end of the bat. Just up towards the end. And he knows he just missed it, and so does Bruce Hurst.
The Sensei hitting a homer last night and a couple of other shots to deep center. Then the double to center the first time and just missing that one.
Take another look at it. First pitch fastball. Just enough away to get it on the end of the bat. You see another strike to Bobby Grich to run the count to 0-2. And if that ball is a little bit more in the middle of the plate, he gets it on the meat of the bat, and the game's tied.
One out, bases empty. Out of play. And a new bat is necessary. Grich country. It was Grich country last night in the bottom of the 11th.
Really from a go to a hero, makes an error. Keep the score 2-0, but boots one. Double play situation. The runner scored at 3-0. Strikes out 3 out of 5 times, and then gets a chance to redeem himself in the 11th inning, and does it.
1-2 the count.
But he is scuffling. Struck out the first time today, and of course there's a reason for that. Mr. Hurst tonight, or this afternoon, and last night Schiraldi and Clemens.
2-2.
Bobby, we've talked about a lot of the older players. When you get a little bit older, your bat slows down a little bit in most cases. And what you try to do is speed it up, and that makes you more susceptible to breaking pitches. And it had a fantastic career that you very rarely could ever get to take a bad swing. Carl Yastrzemski, at the end of his career, looked like did not want to have a bad swing at a fastball, so he was strictly geared for that. And then in the later years, after being really for almost 20 years a great breaking ball hitter, was a pitch you can get him out with it because he had adjusted.
The 2-2 pitch to Bobby Grich. Ooh, just missing. Ball 3-2. And again, for the third consecutive day, a man who is a pretty good fisherman. Behind the shades, the last man to hit 400. 1941, Ted Williams hitting 406. Down goes Grich. So Hurst goes 0-2 on him, then 3-2, and gets him swinging. And Grich, who Hurst referred to as one of those who gives him a lot of trouble normally, has struck out twice today.
It does. Again, the 2-2 pitch makes all the difference. Just misses with that curveball that looked like a strike, and then it makes you as a hitter look for both pitches. Look for the fastball, but couldn't catch up with it.
With 2 out of the bases empty, Reggie Jackson. 1-0 the count. Yogi Berra, of course, played in only World Series games because there were no playoffs during his career. In for a strike. And so Reggie has had the advantage of the extra games, but still a most impressive mark to tie. Most postseason games. Three and one.
Undisputable fact that he has played on some great teams. If you're playing the 75 postseason games, you obviously have to be on a winner.
A lot. Full count, 3-2 on Reg. Ripped into center for a base hit. So a 2-out single up the middle for Jackson.
Right fielder, George Hendrick.
The last time a strikeout, 3-2 count. Just his defensive swing, trying to make contact. And he does, single to center.
George Hendrick. And Jackson gets caught off first base. Reggie got caught leaning and couldn't get back, and that's the end of the 4th inning on a pickoff by Hurst. Good move, and Reggie just got caught.
Really no place to go. Only 1 stolen base on the year. Takes them out of an inning where they have a home run hitter up at the plate again.
Still 2-1 Red Sox. In Anaheim, we're going to the top of the 5th inning. Game 5 of the American League Championship Series, and that's what you'll see tonight. Game 4, National League Series. Keith Jackson, Tim McCarver will be at shave for you as Mike Scott goes to the mound. He pitched so brilliantly in Game 1 against Sid Fernandez, and then a day game for Game 5 in the National tomorrow. Meanwhile, here's the home run by Gedman back in the 2nd inning. Ripped down the line and right and out of here. He'll be coming up second as we go to the top of the 5th inning behind Evans. It's Evans, Gedman, and Armas facing Mike Witt. Evans just 2 for 17. So trying to get on track. Struck out in the 2nd inning. Good curve.
That's the best angle to see Mike Witt's curveball right from behind home plate as a hitter does. Saw the first one, he gave a little bit on it. That was a breaking ball, and then he threw him a fastball on the outside part of the plate. Really, other than the one mistake to Gedman, and pitching very well. Really, the hit that set up the first run, the Rice leading off the inning with a base hit, it was, as we said, a pretty good pitch.
Down to short, Schofield to Grish. 1 away. Mike Witt has now retired 8 straight. And he has gotten most of the outs thus far today on ground balls, as is customary for him. Gedman at the plate with the 2-run homer. To center field, to left center. Pettis' speed can't catch up with that one, and it's off the fence. And it's Gedman who chugs into second with a double.
Well, he loves to hit here. 4 home runs, 3 in the regular season. The one we saw earlier today here in Anaheim. As we said, the ball does carry in the daytime. Gedman with a home run to left field earlier in the year for a grand slam. This time almost gets another one. You see Pettis' nose playing shallow. The ball's going to be a double at least. With Gedman's lack of speed, picks it up and holds him at second.
Now Tony Armas, who has not been swinging the bat well at all, flied out to left in the 2nd inning. One and 0. Boston 2, California 1, 1 out in the 5th. High fly ball to left field. Downing really fighting the sun, staggering and staying with it and making the catch. Sutter stepping all the way along.
At this particular time, where you lose the ball is really not when it comes down, is when it goes up. That's why he was so unsure of how deep the ball was hit. So what you do is you try to at least get your eyes or your gloves, your sunglasses down, and get some way where you can finally get the ball as it reaches its apex, and then pick it up on the way down.
Apex reminds me of Kirk McCaskill the other day in press conference after the second game. As Owen stands in. With the intense media coverage and everything, questions are asked 1,000 times. McCaskill's standing there. They're asking him 100 times about the ball he lost in the sun the other day, the grounder. And he's getting a little yutzy about it. Finally, somebody says, Perk, exactly when did you lose it? And he said, about 2 3/4 inches from its apex. 0-2. McCaskill's got a wonderful sense of humor. And we would see McCaskill on the mound Tuesday if we go to a game 6. Maybe we can get McCaskill to imitate Sammy Davis and Keith Jackson if we go back to Boston. As Kevin Bass did yesterday. I love that bit. That was great. 0-2 pitch is grounded to the right side. Burleson stays with it over to Grich, and that's that for Boston. They strand Gedman, and at the end of 4 1/2, it's 2-1 Red Sox.